All right, thank you. Thanks. How are you doing, Eddie? Doing good.
Counsel of record as to each party may make their appearances.
Georgia Kappelman and Sarah Catherine Dugan for the state.
Marisol Descalzo on behalf of Donna Adelson, who's present in court and seated to my left. Your Honor, I'll just add to supplement to my motion, which was filed last week, that we are now on day 22 of direct observation. Mrs. Adelson continues unable to participate in her defense. She's not permitted any papers. I cannot mail her anything. I did have a call with her on Friday, but only because Mrs. Kappelman facilitated it for me. And on that call, it was not a private call. Ms. Adelson was forced to put me on speakerphone with guards listening. There is just no way that Mrs. Adelson can prepare for her defense in this manner.
Are you alleging that you have no ability to access your client or that there is limited contact with your client?
No, Your Honor, I'm not saying that there is no ability. The direct observations that are contained within my motion were not observed by myself, but Daniel Rashbaum, Charlie Adelson's attorney, had a visit with Charlie Adelson, and he was able to swap it out for Miss Donna Adelson the week of, I think, November 27th or 28th. So he was able to have that conversation with her in person. I've had a conversation with her, like I said, over the phone. I have been told that I can do a 60-minute increment visit with her in person. There is no video visitation ability. So I would say that my ability to meet with her is limited. It's not non-existent. However, my ability to share, for example, discovery, paperwork, the motion I filed with Ms. Adelson is non-existent because she's not permitted to have paper.
Very well. We'll take up the other aspect of this in a moment, actually, which deals with the level of confinement and what is going on with it. Ms. Kappelman, does the state have any argument to make concerning this matter?
The state would defer to Mr. Toomey, who's here to speak on those matters that I think you're addressing right now.
Very well. Mr. Pimentel, Mr. Toomey.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon.
As far as this particular issue goes, there is no impediment to her speaking with her lawyer, seeing her lawyer, over and above using a tablet. The tablet has a headset that can be used as a ligature. Otherwise, she's free to enter the jail. Chief Mack is here. He's assured me that they can have visit. I don't understand the problem that is perceived, but there is no impediment to an attorney-client visitation. Am I correct?
The first question, we'll have Chief Mack give some testimony so that way we have a clear record. But the level of confinement and also the current restrictions that are in place, are these because there were at some point statements alluding to self-harm during the jail phone calls?
And at booking here. When she was booked into the jail here, she made a statement that she wanted to die. Now, before she was arrested in Miami, she also had a phone call with her son, who's obviously in jail here, 25-minute phone call. I personally listened to it. She very clearly spoke about a plan to kill herself using sleeping pills.
One moment. Ms. Adelson, please keep your comments to yourself. Let your lawyer argue on your behalf.
Spoke of a plan to kill herself if she could not escape the country before arrest. That was known to the folks in this jail when she got here. That's why she's on watch. The mental health professionals see her every day. They are not satisfied that she's safe, and it's up to them to decide it.
Is there a specific procedure that the jail has for dealing with inmates with a threat of self-harm? Chief Mack, let me swear you in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, sir.
If you can explain to me what the procedure is, Chief Mack, and from there, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Pimentel, I'll allow you to direct Chief Mack on any other matters you believe to be pertinent. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Anytime anyone makes a statement or we get evidence of someone wanting to actually harm themselves, they're placed on direct observation. On direct observation, they receive a smock as well as a suicide blanket. And they're placed in an isolated room. It's just direct observation is what it really is. So we have a staff member outside the door that actually watches them around the clock, make sure they don't cause any harm to themselves.
When are the individuals who are under this status reevaluated for going back to general population?
That's done daily with yes care personnel.
Mr. Toomey, if you have any further examination for Chief Mack, I'll allow you to do so at this time.
Very briefly. Chief, is there a way for someone that's on suicide watch to have a direct visit with their lawyer?
Yes, we will pull the individual from the particular area that they are housed in and put them in an office with just the attorney.
Mrs. Scalzo, do you have an examination for Chief Mack?
I do, Your Honor. May I proceed, Your Honor?
You may.
Thank you. Would you like me to proceed from here?
That's fine.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chief Mackey, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Mac.
Chief Mack. Chief Mack. Have you listened to this 25-minute call that Ms. Adelson had before she was arrested?
Not in its entirety. I actually heard the portion where she was speaking of wanting to do a pact with her husband. I'm assuming that's who the individual was.
Chief Mack, do you participate in the decision on whether Ms. Adelson needs to remain on direct observation?
No, ma'am, that's a medical.
Okay, is the medical person that makes that decision a psychiatrist or another person?
That's Dr. Sapp.
So is Dr. Sapp a psychiatrist?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if Dr. Sapp has examined Ms. Adelson?
She advised me that she spoke with her on different occasions or been around the area while another clinician was talking with her.
Well, how is Dr. Zapp?
Sapp.
Zapp. How is Dr. Zapp?
Sapp.
Zack with a C, I'm sorry?
If you could spell it, Chief Mack.
SAPP. Sapp.
Zapp. So how is Dr. Zapp supposed to determine whether Mrs. Adelson can be removed from direct observation if she doesn't evaluate her?
From what I was advised, she has evaluated her and also other members of her staff.
Do you have a report from Dr. Zapp
I
establishing, I'm sorry.
wouldn't take, because of HIPAA laws, I don't necessarily get involved with medical paperwork.
Did you inquire how many times Dr. Zapp had met with Mrs. Adelson?
I did not, because they actually see everyone that's on direct daily, and it's more than just Ms. Adelson.
Chief Mack, are you aware that Dr. Zapp has never evaluated or met with Mrs. Adelson?
I can only go what I've been told by Ms. Sapp.
Chief Mack, are you aware that Dr. Pugh is the only psychiatrist that has seen Mrs. Adelson, and that was on November 27th?
I didn't get that information as to who saw her. All I needed to know, or all I need to be privileged to, is that she needed to be on direct observation.
Were you advised how many times she had visits?
No,
Did you ask how many times she had been visited?
not just knowing that she's being seen daily. I don't ask who actually saw her or what the conversation was pertaining to.
Chief Mack, if what you're saying is what you were told is correct, there should be a report from Dr. Zapp and from whatever clinician is meeting her daily, right? About the evaluation.
Yes, I would assume it is.
And did anybody tell you, any of your clinicians tell you that actually Mrs. Adelson was evaluated by the same psychiatrist over a period of 72 hours in Miami, and she was released to general population?
I heard something of it, but
Okay, can you tell us generally what you have been told? What was her evaluation like? When will she be stepped down? What's happening?
that's something that they will tell me when that occurs, in the way of when she feels as though that Ms. Adelson is at that stage in the process, she will inform me of the step-down process.
Who is she?
That's either of the Yes Care personnel. Normally, it's Dr. Sapp, Dr. Pugh, or Ms. Smith, Ms. Richardson, Tori Richardson.
Okay. So it's Ms. Richardson, Dr. Pugh, and Dr. Zapp. Those are the three people you're communicating with about Mrs. Adelson's treatment or step-down process?
Periodically, I have a captain that actually is over medical, but I go through medical.
Mr. Scalzo, before this continues on, I want this to remain focused on the subject matter of the motion itself. This is not a deposition. If you have further examination, I'll allow you to finish.
Thank you, Your Honor. Chief Mack, are you aware that the only person that has been communicating or evaluating Mrs. Adelson since the one time on November 27th that Dr. Pugh saw her is Ms. Richardson?
Richardson. I'm not aware of who all. I know Ms. Pugh's seen her once, twice. I'm not sure.
You're saying Dr. Zapp has personally told you that Dr. Zapp has visited Mrs. Adelson?
She told me she was in the area with Ms. Adelson. I don't know, because I wasn't present, as to what occurred during that meeting.
So what does it mean she's in the area? That she was around?
Yes, ma'am. That's what she advised me, that she was around.
Did you interpret that to mean that she evaluated Mrs. Adelson or that she was around Mrs.
I
Adelson?
interpreted it as she being present in the area.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Toomey, and I redirect.
If there were notes regarding the interaction between mental health and the defendant in this case, where would those notes be?
I'm going to be in a medical file.
You recognize this document as her medical file. It's moving around a bit. It's been a day.
Yes, I would say that was a medical file.
All right. Do you know if anybody's asked for these besides me?
No, sir.
That's all, Judge.
Chief Mack, you may take your seat. Is there a procedure with regard to inmates with self-harm concerns or direct observation?
There is. It's standard in each and every jail. It is that until a mental health counselor or another mental health provider, like a psychiatrist or psychologist, is assured that that person does not possess or present a risk of self-harm, then they stay on that status. And they figure out where that status is by charting daily. A mental health counselor sees her.
Have you been able to provide a copy of either the policy or the patient file to Ms. Adelson's attorney?
I haven't been asked. I can tell you, before this motion was written, no one has asked for these medical records because I am the final arbiter in this state for this client. I decide whether the records are going out.
Very well.
Like I said in my motion, I understand that there's separation of powers, and I understand that the court is limited in what they can do in directing the jail. But I think that one thing that Your Honor can do is, you have heard that the jail, and Mr. Toomey said, he's the arbiter in this state. All jails run the same. The jail in Miami-Dade County cleared Mrs. Adelson, a psychiatrist, a mental health professional that works for the state, that works for the Department of Corrections, has said that she is not required to be on direct observation. She comes here, and all of a sudden that changes.
Mr. Toomey, Mr. Pimentel, what administrative remedies are actually available to inmates absent the court stepping in?
Well, that is a key question when it comes to injunctions. That's
Yes.
what we thought. There are two means. First, that there's a grievance procedure in the jail that can and must be followed. Second, there is always civil suit, either in this courthouse or the fancy courthouse up the street. So there are legal avenues in place that preclude the entry of an injunction.
Mr. Pimentel, do you have anything further to argue on behalf of the sheriff?
Well, Your Honor, I need to put something on the record first. James Pimentel, General Counsel of the Sheriff's Office. I've been Sheriff McNeil's General Counsel for almost 7 years now. I've never heard from this attorney. I haven't heard from anyone representing this defendant. Any assertion, sir, that they've attempted to contact the Office of General Counsel. I have a paralegal. I have email. I've never been contacted by this defendant or this defendant's counsel.
Very well. I'm going to make my findings as follows. As to the issue of there being a Sixth Amendment violation where there is no access by Ms. Adelson to counsel of record, I cannot find that. However, Ms. Adelson being able to confer with counsel privately, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Pimentel, is there an ability to make accommodation for that even in the observation wing?
Yes, Your Honor, there is. Chief Mack and I will work to ensure that we have a protocol, Your Honor.
Very well. What I would ask you to do then is please speak with defense counsel as to what accommodations can be made. Right, Mr. Scalzo, as to issuing an injunction against the jail, I do not believe I have the authority to do so. Right, Mr. Toomey, Mr. Pimentel, and Chief Mack, if you can get with defense counsel, I think that will eliminate next time the need to have any hearings on a basis such as this. Obviously, Ms. Adelson wants to prepare for her trial. She is entitled to do so, but the sheriff runs the jail. I fully recognize that, and I respect that.